Houston rain has a way of washing everything down to its truth. That night, it came hard, sheets of water hammering the asphalt, thunder crawling low across the sky. I sat in the back of my car, watching raindrops race each other down the tinted glass, feeling nothing in particular. That's been my life lately: business dinners, silent hotel rooms, and the kind of wealth that can't buy back the people you've lost. The city lights blurred in the downpour as my driver, Travis, turned onto the bridge that led toward the interstate. That's when I saw her. Welcome, friends, and thank you for being here today. I'd love to know, where are you watching from? Share your city and country in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoy powerful stories like this, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that will stay with you long after the screen goes dark. Now, let's dive in. At first, I thought it was just a pile of blankets near one of the pillars. But then, lightning cracked, and I caught sight of movement: a woman, hunched over, clutching something small to her chest. The sight cut through me. No one should be out there in weather like this. Pull over, I said. Travis hesitated. Sir, it's pouring. I said pull over. He steered toward the shoulder, wipers fighting the rain. I stepped out into the storm, the wind slicing through my coat as I ran toward the figure. The closer I got, the clearer it became that she wasn't alone. She had a baby wrapped in a thin towel, shielding it from the cold as best she could. Miss? I called out, my voice barely carrying over the rain. She flinched, turning her face away. Please, don't come closer. Something in her voice made me stop. It was weak, but not broken, more like someone who'd fought too long to still trust anyone. I'm not here to hurt you, I said. You need help. You and the baby. She shook her head, pulling the small bundle tighter. Lightning flashed again, and that's when I saw her face. For a moment, I thought the storm had played a trick on me. My heart stopped cold. Kathy? I whispered. She froze. Her eyes, those same blue eyes that once followed me around my old ranch, begging me to let her ride the horses, met mine through the rain. And just like that, time folded in on itself. Grandpa, she said, voice trembling. I stepped forward, breath caught in my chest. The last time I'd seen her, she was 16, laughing with her father at a family barbecue. I thought she was gone, moved away, married, maybe living some quiet life I'd never been part of. But here she was, soaked, barefoot, clutching a baby that couldn't have been more than a few months old. What happened to you? I asked, my voice breaking. Her lips trembled. You can't tell anyone you saw me. Please. I frowned. Tell anyone? Kathy, I thought you were. She cut me off, eyes darting toward the road. Please, Grandpa. If they find out I'm back, it won't end well. Not for me, not for her. She looked down at the baby. I wanted to ask who they were, but the baby stirred and started crying, the sound raw and fragile against the thunder. Instinct took over. I pulled off my coat and wrapped it around them both. You're coming with me, I said firmly. Whatever's going on, it's over now. You're safe. She hesitated. I can't go to a hospital. No police. I'm not taking you to the police, I said. I'm taking you home. Her eyes filled with tears, she tried to hide. Home, she echoed, like the word itself was foreign. Yes, I said. My jet's waiting at Hobby. We'll leave tonight. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she nodded, barely. I helped her to her feet, shielding her and the baby as we hurried to the car. Travis stared in confusion, but didn't question me. He just opened the door. Kathy sat beside me, silent except for the baby's soft breathing. I couldn't stop staring at her reflection in the window, older, thinner, but still the little girl I once carried on my shoulders. I wanted to ask everything: where she'd been, who hurt her, what she was running from, but one look at her face told me she wasn't ready. Whatever she'd seen had left scars deeper than the cold could reach. As the car rolled toward the airport, I leaned back and closed my eyes. The rain eased, but inside, the storm only grew louder. I thought of her father, my son, Mark, and how his death had torn the family apart. Could this be connected? Could she be running from something tied to him? I didn't know. But I knew one thing: I wasn't losing her again. By the time we reached the private terminal, Kathy had fallen asleep with Kayla in her arms. I looked at them both, a strange ache settling in my chest. For the first time in years, I felt something other than regret. I didn't know it yet, but that night under the bridge wasn't just the start of a reunion. It was the beginning of a reckoning, one that would dig up everything I thought I'd buried with my son. As the jet lifted off into the dark sky, I stared out the window at the city lights fading below us. Something told me the storm wasn't done with us yet. If you found your own granddaughter and her baby living under a bridge, would you take them in, or call the police first? Drop your thoughts in the comment. The flight to Aspen felt longer than it should have. Maybe because I couldn't stop watching Kathy. She sat across from me, her eyes fixed on the window, clutching that baby like someone might take her away if she blinked too long. I wanted to ask questions, hundreds of them, but the silence between us felt fragile, like the wrong word might make it all collapse. When we landed, dawn was just breaking over the Rockies. The air was crisp, sharp, and cleaner than anything in Houston. As we drove through the pine-lined road toward my estate, the snow began to fall, slow and steady. I'd bought that house years ago, stone walls, wide windows, big enough for a family that never came back. Now, pulling through the gates with Kathy and the baby, it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt haunted by possibility. Martha was waiting at the front door, arms crossed, a blanket draped over one shoulder. She'd been with me so long that she didn't even need me to explain things out loud anymore. Still, when she saw Kathy, her eyes widened in disbelief. "Mr. Manson," she said carefully, "you didn't tell me we had guests." "This is Kathy," I said, stepping out. "My granddaughter. And this is her daughter, Kayla." For a moment, the world stood still. Martha covered her mouth, her eyes filling. She'd known Kathy as a child, used to bake cookies with her when the summers were long and carefree. "My God," Martha whispered. "Look at you, all grown up." Kathy gave a weak smile but said nothing. Her voice seemed caught somewhere between exhaustion and fear. "Let's get you inside," I said. The warmth of the house hit us like a wave. Kathy stood just inside the door, looking around the grand foyer, at the high ceilings, the chandelier, the oil paintings on the wall. It must have felt like another planet compared to where I found her. Martha led her upstairs while I stayed behind, instructing the driver to take care of the luggage. I followed slowly, every creak of the staircase reminding me of Evelyn, my late wife. She'd always wanted this place full of family, laughter, and noise. Now, years later, I wondered what she'd think of this moment. Her granddaughter returned, holding a child, running from something unspeakable. When I reached the guest room, Martha was already setting up the crib I'd bought months ago on a whim. "Never thought we'd actually use this," she said with a small smile. Kathy lay Kayla down gently, brushing the baby's soft hair. I could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the kind of tired that no amount of sleep could fix. "Do you need anything?" I asked. She hesitated. "Just time," she said softly. "Time I can give," I replied. She turned to me. "Grandpa, thank you for coming back for me." I nodded, trying to find the right words, but none came. I just placed a hand on her shoulder, the same way I used to when she was little, and scraped her knees. That night, I asked Martha to prepare a warm meal, nothing fancy, just soup and bread. Kathy ate quietly, her eyes darting toward the windows every few minutes. I noticed. She was alert, like someone expecting a knock that never came. "You're safe here," I said. "No one knows you're here except us." She nodded, but her grip on the spoon tightened. "You don't understand, Grandpa. He always finds me." The way she said he made the hair on my arms stand. "Who?" I asked. She looked at the baby and shook her head. "Please. Not tonight. I wanted to press her, but I didn't. She'd tell me when she was ready, or maybe she never would. After dinner, she excused herself and went upstairs. I stayed in the den, pretending to read but staring at the fire instead. The storm outside had grown heavier, the wind howled across the valley. For the first time in a long while, I felt the presence of something unspoken in my home, something fragile and fearful. Around midnight, I stepped onto the balcony to clear my head. The snow had stopped. The night was quiet except for the soft hum of the generator. Then I noticed it, two faint headlights parked near the gate. At first, I thought it was the security patrol. But the car didn't move. The engine idled, steady and low. I watched for nearly a minute before the driver flicked a cigarette out the window and slowly backed away into the woods. A black SUV. The kind that doesn't come cheap, the kind used by people who don't want to be seen. I stood there long after it vanished. Every instinct I'd buried over the years came roaring back: fear, anger, protectiveness. The next morning, Kathy came downstairs with dark circles under her eyes. She looked at me, her voice trembling. "You saw it too, didn't you?" I didn't answer right away. "He found us," she whispered, her arms tightening around Kayla. My blood ran cold. "Who?" I asked again. Her lips quivered. "My father." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The man she called her father, my son, was supposed to be dead. But as I stared into her terrified eyes, I knew this wasn't a mistake. Whoever was in that SUV wasn't a stranger. He'd come back from the grave. Would you risk your peace to protect family, even if you didn't know what danger they were bringing? Please let me know in the comments section. When Kathy said his name, I felt the air leave the room. My son's name. Mark. For years, I'd lived with the weight of his death, believing he'd died in a car accident on a back road outside Austin. The police report, the funeral, the ashes, they were all supposed to bring closure. But now, looking into Kathy's terrified eyes, I realized closure was a lie. I leaned back in my chair, my mind spinning. "That's not possible," I muttered. "Mark's gone. I buried him myself." Kathy shook her head, clutching Kayla closer. "No, Grandpa. You buried an empty urn." Her voice cracked on the last word, and something inside me cracked with it. I remembered that day like it was carved into my memory: the black casket, the priest's voice, the smell of rain and flowers. I hadn't even seen the body. They told me it was too badly burned to identify. I took their word for it. I wanted to. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" I asked, my throat tight. "Because no one would have believed me," she said. "He's not the same man you remember. He's angry, paranoid, dangerous. He blames you for everything." I stared at her, searching for some trace of exaggeration, but her trembling hands told me this wasn't a story. This was trauma. I stood, pacing the length of the den. The fire cast long, flickering shadows against the walls. "You said he blames me." "For what?" "For Mom's death," she whispered. I froze mid-step. Her mother, my daughter-in-law, Evelyn, had died in an accident too. Years before Mark supposedly did. The guilt of losing them both had hollowed me out. I'd always suspected my son couldn't handle the grief, but I never imagined he'd fake his death over it. Kathy's voice pulled me back. "He says you ruined everything. That Grandma's death wasn't an accident." I turned sharply. "What are you talking about?" She hesitated, then whispered, "He said you pushed her." For a second, the room went silent except for the ticking clock. I opened my mouth, but no words came. I could still see Evelyn falling, the scream, the sound of her body hitting the marble floor, the way time stopped that night. It was an accident. It had to be. But the way Kathy looked at me made me wonder if even she believed that. I took a slow breath and steadied my voice. "Your father's lying. He's twisting things." Evelyn slipped. I tried to save her. Kathy's eyes softened, but her silence lingered long enough to hurt. "I just needed you to know," she said quietly. "He's out there. And he won't stop until he finds me, and you." I walked to the window. The snow had stopped, but the storm in my head was just beginning. If Mark were alive, someone had helped him disappear, and someone had helped him come back. After Kathy went upstairs, I poured myself a drink and sat in my study, staring at the fire. I needed answers. I couldn't go to the police. Mark would hear before they even finished their paperwork. I needed someone who owed me a favor, someone who knew how to dig quietly. That's when I thought of Detective Harris. We'd served on the same charity board years ago. Harris had since retired, but he still had access to things that weren't meant for the public eye. I picked up the phone and called his private number. He answered on the second ring. "Bobby Manson. I'll be damned. Haven't heard from you since that mess with your company audit. What's going on?" "I need a favor, Harris," I said. "And it needs to stay between us." His tone shifted immediately. "Go on. I need you to look up a death record. My son, Mark Manson, died 10 years ago. Car crash outside Austin." There was a pause. "You think the report's wrong?" "I think it was never real." Harris didn't ask for details. He'd been in law enforcement long enough to know when not to. "Give me a few hours," he said. "I'll call you back." I hung up and sat in the dark, listening to the house creak under the mountain wind. Every sound made me tense. I checked the window twice, half expecting that black SUV to be back. When the call finally came, the clock read 2:47 a.m. "Bobby," Harris said, voice low and cautious. "I don't know what you're mixed up in, but there's something off about this file. No death certificate. No autopsy. Just a one-page police report with your name and a signature that doesn't look like yours." My heart pounded. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the death record was falsified. Your son never went through any official system. Whoever handled it wanted him gone, but not dead." I swallowed hard. "Who could have done that?" "That's what scares me," he said. "This kind of erasure doesn't happen by accident." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the crackle of the fire. "Send me what you have," I said finally. "I already did," Harris replied. "But listen, Bobby, if he's alive, you need to be careful. People who fake their deaths usually have a reason. And they don't come back to apologize." The line went dead. I sat there for a long time, staring at the embers. My hand shook around the glass I hadn't touched. If Mark's death had been faked, then everything I'd built my grief around was a lie. Someone made me believe I'd lost my son, and that someone had the power to make the world believe it too. But why? I looked up the staircase, toward where Kathy and the baby were sleeping. Whatever truth was buried, I was about to dig it up. And I had a feeling it wouldn't stay buried for long. If you discovered someone faked a death in your family, what's the first thing you'd do? Tell me in the comments. The house had gone quiet hours ago. The kind of quiet that hums in your ears and keeps you awake even when you're exhausted. The fire in my study had burned down to ash, but I stayed there anyway, nursing a drink and staring into the darkness. It had been 2 days since Harris called. I hadn't told Kathy about the falsified report, not yet. I didn't want to believe it myself. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Mark's face the way I remembered it, strong, sharp, stubborn. The son I raised to be better than me. The son I buried. The clock on the wall clicked toward midnight. I was about to head upstairs when I heard it, glass shattering somewhere above me. Then a scream. Kathy's scream. I dropped the glass in my hand and sprinted up the stairs 2 at a time. My heart pounded so loud it drowned out everything else. When I reached the hallway, I saw her standing in the doorway of her room, clutching Kayla to her chest. Her eyes were wide with terror. Across the hall, half hidden by shadow, stood a man. For a moment, the world froze. He was thinner than I remembered, his face harder, sharper. His eyes, cold and familiar, locked onto mine. "Mark?" It came out like a prayer and a curse at the same time. He didn't move. Didn't blink. Just stood there, soaked from the snow, breathing hard, staring at me with hatred so deep it almost looked like grief. "I knew you'd hide her here," he said finally, his voice hoarse but steady. "You always think you can fix things with money." Kathy's voice trembled. "Dad, please. Don't do this." He ignored her, his eyes never leaving mine. "You stole everything from me, old man. Everything. My inheritance, my mother, my life." I took a slow step forward. "You faked your death, Mark. You made us bury ashes that weren't yours. You made your daughter live like a fugitive." He laughed, sharp and bitter. "You think I had a choice? You took everything first." "What are you talking about?" I asked. "You vanished. You left everyone behind." His jaw clenched. "You think I don't know about Mom? About how she fell? You think I don't know what you did after?" I froze. "That was an accident." "Was it?" he shot back. "Or did you push her when she finally told you the truth?" "The truth?" My voice rose to spite myself. "What truth?" He took a step closer, but Kathy screamed, "Stop. Please, both of you." The baby started crying, her wails echoing through the hall. Mark's expression flickered for a split second, something human, something broken. Then he turned to his daughter. "You shouldn't have come here, Kathy. You've just made it worse for everyone." And before I could move, he was gone. He turned, ran down the hall, and disappeared into the storm. By the time I reached the front door, all I saw were footprints fading into snow and the taillights of a black SUV vanishing down the mountain road. For a long time, I just stood there, my hand pressed to the cold glass. My son, alive, breathing, angry, had walked through my house like a ghost come to collect a debt. When I finally went back upstairs, Kathy was sitting on the floor, rocking Kayla and crying silently. "He's not well," she said through tears. "He doesn't think straight anymore. He talks to people who aren't there. Sometimes, he says Mom still visits him." I knelt beside her. "How long has he been following you?" "Months," she whispered. "Every time I thought I'd lost him, he'd show up again. That's why I ran. That's why I was under that bridge. I wanted to tell her she was safe now, but I couldn't. Not after what I'd seen." When she finally fell asleep, I went downstairs again. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I poured another drink but didn't touch it. Instead, I opened the security console beside the main door and checked the logs. The cameras had gone dark at 11:32 p.m., exactly the time I heard the glass break. Someone had disabled the system from inside the house. Martha. Travis. Maybe even Kathy herself. No. I shook my head. Kathy was too frightened to plan something like this. Which left only one possibility: someone under my own roof had helped Mark get in. I pulled up the footage from earlier that day. Martha moving through the kitchen. Travis checking the cars. Nothing unusual. But then, just before the blackout, I saw something that stopped my breath. The front door unlocking. From the inside. In a hand, just a glimpse of it, turning the knob. Whoever had done it knew where the security blind spots were. Whoever it was, they'd been in my house long enough to know every inch of it. I sat there for hours, watching that empty doorway replay again and again. My mind was a battlefield, half of me wanting to storm through the house demanding answers, the other half knowing that would scare the truth deeper underground. Mark had been here. Someone had let him in. And that meant the danger wasn't outside the house anymore. It was already inside. What do you think? Should I confront my staff, or pretend nothing's wrong until I find proof? Comment your answer below and hit like if you'd stay calm in my situation. After that night, nothing felt safe anymore. Every sound in the house made me turn my head. Every shadow felt like it was holding its breath. I stopped sleeping in my own room. Instead, I took the armchair in the upstairs hallway, right across from Kathy's door, just in case. By day, I pretended things were normal. By night, I became a man I didn't recognize, quiet, suspicious, watching everyone like they were suspects in a crime I couldn't prove yet. The security system was reinstalled, this time with a private server that only I could access. I checked it every morning before sunrise. Most days, the footage showed nothing but empty hallways and Martha cleaning the kitchen before dawn. But the silence between the frames told me something was wrong. Martha had worked for me for over 20 years. She'd been there through everything, birthdays, funerals, holidays that no one else showed up for. I trusted her more than I trusted my own reflection. Which is exactly why the thought of her betraying me made my stomach twist. Still, I couldn't shake the memory of that security log, the door unlocking from the inside. Martha was the only one who had keys at that time of night. That evening, I lingered near the kitchen doorway while she cooked. The smell of stew filled the air, just like old times. She hummed softly, the same tune Evelyn used to hum when she thought no one was listening. It made my chest ache. "You've been quiet lately," she said without turning around. "That's not like you." "Lots on my mind," I said carefully. "Especially after what happened the other night." She stirred the pot, her hand steady. "Scary thing, intruders. But I'm glad everyone's safe." The words rolled off her tongue too smoothly. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something in her tone, it was too rehearsed. I decided then that I needed proof, not guesses. Later that night, I pretended to go to bed. I waited until the lights went out and the house settled. The storm outside had quieted to a drizzle. Then I crept downstairs, barefoot, careful not to let the floorboards creak. From the hallway near the kitchen, I heard her voice, low, whispering. "Martha." I edged closer, hiding behind the corner. She was in the pantry, her back to me, phone pressed to her ear. Her voice trembled. "I did what you asked," she whispered. "He doesn't suspect anything yet." A pause. Then, clear as day. "Yes, Mark. I swear. I won't let him hurt her." My heart dropped. She was talking to him. To Mark. I felt something inside me snap, not from anger, but heartbreak. For a moment, I couldn't move. I just stood there, listening to her whisper promises to the same man who had terrorized his own daughter. Then I stepped into the light. "Who are you talking to, Martha?" She froze, turned, and the phone slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor. Her face went pale. "Mr. Manson, please, I can explain." "Go ahead," I said, my voice shaking. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you just sold me out to my son." Tears welled in her eyes. "He threatened me, Bobby. He said if I didn't help him, he'd hurt Kathy and the baby. I didn't have a choice." I stared at her, my chest tight. "You could have told me." "I tried," she cried. "But every time I thought about it, he called again. He knows things only someone in this house could know. He said you owe him a confession." "Confession?" I echoed. "For what?" She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "For what happened to Evelyn." The room went dead silent. The air felt thick, heavy. That name, Evelyn, cut through me like a blade every time I heard it. I stepped closer. "What did he tell you?" "That you killed her," she whispered. "That you pushed her when she threatened to leave." I stared at her, every word like a blow to the gut. "He said you've been lying all these years," she continued. "That you blamed him for what you did." I wanted to yell. Deny it. Throw something. But I didn't. Because part of me, some weak, hidden part, wasn't sure anymore. That night, years ago, Evelyn had fallen down the grand staircase after an argument. We'd been shouting. About Mark. About money. About everything that had gone wrong since she found out what he'd done at the company. I'd reached for her to stop her from walking away, and she fell. At least, that's how I'd always remembered it. But now, hearing Martha say those words, my memory felt foggy. Fractured. The image of her falling kept replaying, changing slightly each time. Did I pull her arm too hard? Did I shove her? Or did she simply lose her footing? I sank into a chair, my hands trembling. "Bobby," Martha said softly, stepping forward. "You didn't do it, did you?" I looked at her. "I don't know anymore." She started crying again, mumbling that she was sorry. But the words didn't reach me. I was somewhere else, back in that marble hallway, hearing Evelyn's scream echo down the stairs, feeling the shock, the guilt, the disbelief. When I finally stood, my voice was low. "Pack your things, Martha. Leave by morning." She didn't argue. She just nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. When she was gone, I poured myself another drink and stared at my reflection in the dark window. For the first time since this nightmare began, I didn't just fear Mark. I feared myself. If someone accused you of a crime you don't remember clearly, would you defend yourself, or start questioning your own memory? Please let me know in the comments. The storm rolled back into Aspen like it never left. Thick clouds swallowed the moon, thunder rumbled low in the valley, and the house, my house, felt smaller than ever. I hadn't seen Martha since the morning she left. She didn't even look me in the eye as she packed. I didn't stop her. I just watched the car disappear through the snow and told myself it was for the best. But the silence she left behind, it was heavy. I spent the afternoon locking every door and window, checking the security feed again and again. Kathy tried to act calm for Kayla's sake, but her nerves showed. Every time the wind howled, she'd flinch. Every time the baby cried, she'd rush to shush her like the sound itself could bring danger. It was nearly midnight when it happened. A sharp noise, wood splintering, echoed through the foyer. I froze, every muscle in my body tense. Then came the unmistakable sound of heavy boots on marble. Before I could move, Kathy's scream cut through the air. "Grandpa!" I bolted up the stairs, my chest burning, and stopped cold halfway up. Standing in the hallway, dripping wet, breathing hard, gun in hand, was Mark. "Don't move," he barked. He looked worse than before. Hollow eyes, face sunken, soaked to the bone. The storm had followed him inside, trailing puddles across the floor. Kathy clutched Kayla behind her, trembling. "Dad, please, stop." Mark's voice cracked. "You should have stayed gone, Kathy. You never should have come back here." I stepped forward, slowly raising my hands. "Mark, you don't have to do this. Put the gun down, son." He sneered. "Don't call me that. You lost the right the day you killed her." I froze. "Killed who?" "You know damn well who," he shouted, his voice echoing through the hall. "Mom. You pushed her, and then you lied to everyone. You made me think I was crazy for telling the truth." The accusation hit me like a blade. I took a step closer, my voice shaking. "She slipped, Mark. You know she did." His eyes burned. "That's the lie you've been feeding yourself for years. You took her away from me, and then you made me disappear too. You buried me before I could bury you." I could feel my pulse in my throat. "What are you talking about?" "I wanted justice," he hissed. "But your money bought silence. So I found a way out. A way to start over. But you couldn't even let me have that, could you?" I took another slow step. "Mark, listen to me. I didn't kill her. I loved your mother more than anything." He raised the gun. "Then prove it. Confess to what you did. Publicly. On camera. Right now." My breath caught. "You want me to lie to make you feel better? I want you to finally tell the truth." The thunder outside cracked like a gunshot, shaking the windows. Kayla started crying in Kathy's arms, and that sound, soft, innocent, human, cut through all of it. Mark's hand trembled. His eyes darted to the baby. For a moment, I saw something in him shift, the fury faltering, replaced by confusion, even pain. Kathy stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Dad, please. Look at her. Look at your granddaughter. You're scaring her. He shook his head, breathing hard. She doesn't need me. She's better off without any of us. That's not true, Kathy said, her tears falling freely now. You're not a monster. But you're letting the past turn you into one. He lowered the gun slightly. Just slightly. I took a cautious breath. Mark, listen to her. We can fix this. You don't have to. Don't you dare talk about fixing things, he snapped, his voice breaking. You can't fix death. You can't fix what you took from me. He pointed the gun again, but his hand was shaking now. I could see it, the war in his eyes. The hatred. The heartbreak. Kathy's voice softened. Dad, you weren't the only one who lost her. Grandpa lost her, too. Mark's jaw clenched. He didn't lose her. She was leaving both of you, Kathy said suddenly. You think she told me nothing? I was a kid, but I heard the fights. Mom was going to leave that night, neither of you wanted to believe it. And when she fell, it destroyed both of you. Her words hung in the air like thunder waiting to break. Mark blinked, his breathing shallow. The gun wavered in his grip. She slipped, Dad, Kathy said through tears. You've built your whole life around a lie you told yourself because it's easier to hate him than to face losing her. For a moment, everything stopped. The only sound was Kayla's soft, frightened whimper. Mark's shoulders dropped. His hand trembled. His eyes, red, glassy, met mine for the first time without fury. Just pain. I lowered my hands slowly. You don't have to do this, son. His mouth opened, but no words came. Then he turned the gun toward the floor and stumbled back. Kathy reached for him, but he shook his head. I don't know what's real anymore, he muttered, and then, before either of us could move, he ran. Down the stairs, through the foyer, out into the storm. The door slammed behind him, leaving the sound of wind and thunder in his place. I stood there frozen, my heart pounding. My son had just pointed a gun at me, and all I could think about was the look in his eyes, the same lost boy I once carried on my shoulders, broken by something neither of us fully understood. When the storm finally quieted, I realized something. For the first time since Evelyn's death, I didn't know if I was the hero of this story, or the villain. If the person you loved most pointed a gun at you, would you beg for mercy, or stand your ground? I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The storm still raged outside, but it was nothing compared to the one tearing through my chest. Mark was gone again, running into the darkness with a gun and a heart full of ghosts. Kathy stayed upstairs with the baby, trembling and silent. Every sound from the house made her jump. I stayed in the den, staring at the fire, replaying every word, every look, every accusation. For years, I'd lived believing I'd buried my son. Now I wasn't even sure I ever knew him. By morning, the snow had stopped. The sun broke through the clouds like it didn't know what kind of night had just passed. I poured myself a coffee I didn't drink. My hands were shaking too badly to hold the cup steady. Then I heard footsteps. Kathy stood in the doorway, pale, exhausted, eyes swollen from crying. Grandpa, she began quietly, there's something you need to know. Her voice was different, steady but filled with dread. I set the cup down. What is it? She took a breath that sounded like it hurt. It's about my dad. About Mom. About you. I frowned. What about me? She hesitated. You've always said you didn't know why Dad hated you so much. But he did have a reason. One that Mom told me before she died. I could feel the room closing in around me. Go on. Kathy's eyes filled again, but she didn't look away. She told me, you're not his father. I blinked. What? She said you're not Mark's biological father, Kathy continued, her voice breaking. That before you married her, she had an affair with another man. Mark was his son, not yours. She said you knew, but you raised him anyway. I sat back hard in the chair. The floor seemed to tilt. Memories I hadn't touched in decades came flooding back. Evelyn's distance after Mark was born, her quiet guilt, her late-night calls she thought I didn't hear. I'd buried that suspicion years ago, refusing to let it poison me. But now, hearing it confirmed by my granddaughter, felt like my lungs were collapsing. Why would she tell you that? I whispered. Because she wanted me to know the truth, Kathy said, tears streaming now. She said keeping it hidden had destroyed our family. That the truth was the only way to stop the cycle. I shook my head. That's not possible. Kathy, you're my... She cut me off, trembling. No, Grandpa. I'm not your granddaughter. For a moment, I didn't understand what she meant. Then she said the words that ripped my world apart. She told me, "You're my father." The room went silent. My heartbeat roared in my ears. I stared at her, trying to process the impossible. "No," I said quietly, shaking my head. "That can't be true." Kathy sobbed. "It's true. Mom told me before she died. She said she never meant for it to happen, that after she learned the truth about Dad not being your son, she lost control. You both did. It was one night, and she regretted it until the end." I felt sick. My hands were cold. The air in the room felt poisonous. If what she was saying was true, if Evelyn had told her the truth, then Mark's hatred made sense. His mother had betrayed him, his wife had kept secrets, and his own daughter. Dear God. A noise came from the hallway, slow, deliberate footsteps. We both turned. Mark stood there, pale, shaking, gun still in hand. He'd heard everything. For a long, unbearable moment, no one spoke. His voice was barely a whisper. "You?" I tried to speak, but no words came. He laughed once, a broken, hollow sound. "So all these years, you weren't just my father. You were hers too." He turned toward Kathy, his face twisting in disbelief. "My daughter is my sister." Kathy's knees buckled. "Dad, please, stop. None of us knew until now." Mark's face crumbled. He dropped the gun to his side, his voice cracking. "Everything I hated you for. You actually did." "Mark," I stepped forward, but he pointed the gun again, this time shaking violently. "I should kill you where you stand," he whispered. "But I don't even know who you are anymore." Before I could speak, a shot rang out. For a second, I thought he'd fired. But then Mark staggered back, eyes wide in shock, blood spreading across his chest. Behind him stood Martha, shaking, holding my old revolver with both hands. "I had to," she sobbed. "He was going to kill you." Mark fell to his knees, gasping. I ran to him, catching him before he hit the floor. His blood was warm against my hands. He looked up at me, his eyes fading. "You win again," he whispered. Then he was gone. The room was silent except for Kathy's sobs and the distant wail of wind outside. I stared down at my son, my not son, my broken reflection. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel victorious. I felt cursed. If a hidden truth tore your whole family apart, would you rather have known, or lived in ignorance? Thank you for watching to the end. If you haven't already, click the subscribe button and stay tuned for part 2.